All right, guys, John Lopez here for Sports Radio 610, sportsradio610.com, and the Odyssey app. And we've been looking forward to this for quite a while. It's an incredible story that a lot of us have some working knowledge of, because if you know college football in the NFL, you know the name Dat Nguyen, and you've heard the story in bits and pieces. Well, we have really good news for you if you're an Aggie fan, because we have Dat Nguyen joining us, as well as the General John McClain, and we are going to talk about exactly that. Ultimately, we're going to talk about a piece that's going to be airing all over, and with the details for that, kind of a documentary life story called All American about Dat Nguyen, who is just an Aggie legend, an NFL, beloved NFL player, former All-Pro. So we'll get started right here. But Dat, I want to start with the big news of the week, of the last week or so, and that is Texas A&M versus Texas. We got a lot to cover, and we'll get to the documentary, the movie. But I didn't even ask you before we went live here your thoughts on that and how you think this is going to go, because I think it's going to be even more intense than ever.
I think it's going to be fantastic. I think just not us as Aggies or Longhorns. It seems like the whole state of Texas. I have a lot of friends that goes to Baylor and Texas Tech, and we talk about many times when they're growing up, that's what they look forward to, is that game, that rivalry, even though they didn't have a bite, a dog in the fight. So I am just excited, ecstatic. I was the last one really was on the staff that we lost to Texas the last time we played there at Kyle Field. And I tell people all the time that Justin Tucker's when they kicked me out of the coaching. So for me,
well, let's not talk about that bogus pass interference call either. That's what did it right there. But that's just me. I was there too.
Yeah. So I think it's exciting for a lot of people, and I'm glad that we're gonna have a chance in the next generation and the young fans that didn't get to experience it the last few years here, but now get to experience and see it again. And it's just a rivalry. Just you don't hate them. I don't particularly hate them, really. I really respect the University of Texas and all the players that play and all the coaches, but it's just that one day, just that 60 minutes, you go out there that you just want to beat them. So you have that bragging about for the next 364 days.
Real quick, what was your, and then John McClain will hop in here. He's joining us as well. You saw him doing the Sick 'em Bears sign there a second ago. What defined it for you? What was the moment that was either eye-opening or you're like, wow, this is different? What was that moment for you with A&M in Texas?
Well, really, it's just the leading up to it. I think all the festivities, the festival that leads up to that game, and the hype. It's just almost like you get a chance to play in the National Football League. It's like you play the 16-game season or now 17-game season, and hey, it's a playoff. You can know the intensity. You can't have all those margin of errors that you had, or you're going to minimize that to have a chance to win. But I think when you experience the week leading up to that first game that I had a chance to play and experience, playing the University of Texas, it's just another animal, just a whole different weekend. And people, fans, if it's at home, they come in on Wednesday and instead of a Friday leading up to the game. So it's just a little different whole week of festivities that is just a unique experience.
As someone who has watched Aggies and Longhorns since before both of you were born, I remember seeing my first game with my dad in 1960, and I hated it when they didn't play, because it's just something's not right with the state of Texas when the Aggies and Longhorns didn't play. And it's still not right, considering they're both going to be in the SEC, but it's better than nothing.
Yes,
and I'm glad to see it too. It's just a football fan, period. And I think it's great. And Dad, I'd like to ask you about the documentary, the genesis of it, what's in it, how fired up are you? I know it's 12th Man Productions.
Yes.
But tell us how it came about.
So I was approached before the pandemic in 2019. Andy Richardson and the 12th Man production crew came and asked, hey, would you want to do this documentary? We think you have a great story to share. And I said, well, I was asked to do movies and films and et cetera before, and it never really fit. And then I said, well, it's going to be about less than an hour. What it's going to be about, it's a documentary. We'll share this story. And for me, the purpose of this is that the root of generations, the Gen 2s and the Gen 3s that doesn't really know much about the war. And I think it helps them to understand and appreciate what we went through as their roots and the families. And And for me, it's American dream, and I think it couldn't ask for a better. I think it's the game of football. You come to America, you get to learn to play the America sport, and you get fortunate to have a chance to play for the America's team. And I am just fortunate to tell a story, and I think my story is just unique in a lot of ways. And there's so many people, John, that really impacted my life, and I learned so much, even from my high school coaches, how they really carry themselves, how they treat their wives, how they were raising up their kids, and that's what I do. And I think back and reflect how much I've learned, and I think the documentary will share you the story of just my journey, and a lot of people might hear bits and pieces. Now they get to see a lot of it, and how it is, and what I went through, what we experienced through those early years here in America.
Now, without giving away the whole show, I mean, people who want to watch this don't really know. I mean, your parents came after the fall of Saigon. I mean, this was the breach. This was the big, we've seen the helicopter picture, and everything else. Just give us a hint of what they went through and you went through, and then landing in Rockport, Fulton.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing is that my dad was 30 years old. He was fortunate. He owned a marine shop which sells products to fishermen and shrimpers in the community, which is a small town south of Saigon called Bin Dao. And I'll go to about that store, that town. But my dad was able to afford a radio so he can hear what was going on during the war. And then as the Viet Cong invaded Saigon, we live in a small village south of there. My dad, midnight, April 25th, 1975. That's the day that the fall of Saigon. My dad said, "Hey, 5 kids, mom pregnant with myself. Get on the boat. We're going to coordinate this." He orchestrated this little trip to get out of here. So we exit the mainland with our family members, with 6, 7 of all of the family members and their families. So there's about 50 of us on a boat to go out to connect with the American ship. But unfortunately, we were getting shot at, grenade was thrown at us. My mom and dad really don't tell much of the story, but my sister was, attend there. She can tell us the story. She'll be she's in the edition as well. But we left Vietnam, didn't get connected with the American ship, so we floated out into sea for about 2 weeks, and yeah, we didn't have any food. We barely had any rice. Mom was pregnant, obviously, and she said that she thought she had a miscarriage. She didn't think we were going to make it, and then obviously we got to land, and it was Thailand, and we thought, oh, that's where we're going to be. Thought it was America. And they said, no, we need paperwork. So we were stuck there for a couple more days, but fortunately we had food. They gave us some food to eat to stay alive, to finish the paperwork. And there we flew from Thailand to Camp Pennington, from Camp Pennington to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. And I'll tell you this quick story about Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. That's where I was born. And when I was born there, fast forward 21 years later, I was at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And I was inducted with Lovie Smith, the ex-coach there at the Houston Texans. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, coach coached me at the Senior Bowl my last year at Texas A&M. We had a great relationship. We stayed in touch during my time in the professional level. And every time we saw each other, we interacted. And it was been about 3-4 years I haven't seen him. I said, I'm looking forward to visiting with coach, catching up. And I saw him at the green room in Waco before the event. And I was walking toward him, and all of a sudden I felt this lady coming beelining straight to me, and she cuts me off in front of me, between me and coach. She goes, "Dad, I need to talk to you. You don't know who I am, but I'm Coach Lovey's wife. And I need to tell you a story. My dad just passed a few months ago. She's just crying profusely. She couldn't stop. And I was like, whoa, what did I do wrong? I was like, I didn't know what I did. So she goes, just sit down and I'll tell the story. She goes, when you played at A&M and you played Ohio State for your Senior Bowl, for the Sugar Bowl last year at the Sugar Bowl, my dad came with me because I went to Ohio State. And during the game, we're watching the game. It goes back and forth, and he keeps saying, he's one of us. He's one of us. And she looks over to her dad. She goes, Dad, who's one of us? She goes, Dad was at the refugee camp I supervised back in 1975 at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
Oh my God!
He just passed a few months ago. So she wanted me to tell me this story for so long, and she finally had a chance. So yeah, it's many people, not just the people that are here that I cross path with, the people that helped us and impact us. And she told me the other story that when he goes home on the weekends, he said, I need to go back because I think they're going to take him. They're going to take them somewhere else. So So she would just leave her family or his wife and kids in Chicago and go
So he
back.
fought for y'all.
He fought for us. Yes, sir.
Man, I got chills.
Yeah.
John, I know you've got more a follow up on that, John, but let's just finish this part of it. How did you end up in Rockport, Fulton, and the shrimping industry?
So we obviously were the fishing industry, the shrimping industry in Vietnam, obviously, but we knew that was a place where we could make a living. So we migrated all the way down from Fort Chaffee. I went to Kalamazoo, Michigan, for 6 months. They gave us a Ford LTD, a church did, and dad worked, mom stayed home with the 6 kids, and then 6 months into it, dad decided, hey, the weather's just a little bit too cold for our Asian heritage here, so we had to move down south. so we went down to end up in Rockport. We went to Fort Worth and down to Rockport, and back to the story I said earlier. What was ironic about Rockport is, remember that little town I told you about south of Saigon that we lived in, the village of Bin Da?
Yeah.
Translation of Bin Da is Port of Rock.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
You're making all this up. I know you're not.
But works in mysterious ways. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
So, Dad, your football career, you started playing. Tell us how you started playing, and tell us how you had to play surreptitiously and keep it from your mama.
So I was recruited. Well, back then I was so much bigger than all my Asian friends. I was 5'9" and some change, 170 pounds in 7th grade. And all Asian friends are not that tall. So I thought I was gonna be the next Shaquille O'Neal, but I was playing basketball. So one day, going into my 8th grade season, at the end of my 7th grade, my coach, the junior high coach, Cliff Davis. John, you might remember this name. Cliff Davis played at A&M. He played baseball and football. He played for the Colt 45.
Yeah.
He was in organization for over 20 years there with the Astros. And so he was my junior high coach.
Okay.
And so every day I had a class, an annex right outside of the main building, and the athletic department is right next door. So he would just stand at that front door and recruit, go, come out and play. Your brother plays, your cousin play. You'd be very good if you come out and play. So I said, so he did it for about 4 consecutive days. And I was like, oh, God, this guy's wearing me out. He's persistent. So I said, I'm going to go try out and play. So I go out. I told him I'm going to play. And I went out. I didn't know anything about iPads, or I didn't know about hip pads. I didn't know anything about football. So it was all new to me. And obviously I had to sign a letter to play sports. Obviously parents were like, no, you're not going to play any sports. You go to school, you be a doctor, you be a lawyer. And I forged my mom and dad's signature on that, on the permission to play and to participate. So I go out there, played, had a great first year, played great. And my parents didn't know I was playing sports until I came home one game, and I broke my arm. I was going for the fumble and a guy hit me and it broke my arm. I still got the screws and pins.
Oh man.
In my elbow. Yeah. So I come home with a cast, and she's like, what in the world is this? And she wasn't happy, but she knew that I was happy. And I didn't think I was going to get to play anymore after that. High school football was going to be over, but she said, no, we'll let you play your freshman year. And I continue to play, and thankful that she allowed me to do that.
Now, obviously, we're all glad, except for John McClain, that you ended up at A&M. But I know you've told this story before, because I think I've heard it. But obviously, you were big in middle school. You were not considered big, as a senior in high school, as a junior in high school. So how did that all play out?
Well, what's crazy is that I had to work. I had to get a chance to get to play, and then we're not big stature people, but I was a good size, not too big, but I knew when I had a chance to go to Texas A&M, I had to get an opportunity. But when I got to Texas A&M, I thought, when you're a small school 3A ball, everybody's patting you on the back. Everybody tells how good you are. They don't know. They're like, oh, you're gonna be the best thing since sliced bread. And then I show up to Texas A&M. Man, all these guys were all district, all region, all state. They're all American. You're like, man, this is 80 guys that's on scholarship, 105, 120 on a team. All of them were good, even those walk-ons. So, you talk about the bottom of the bottom. I think my redshirt freshman year was maybe the hardest year of my career. And it was the best thing for me was I had the redshirt to realize that, hey, you get to work if you want this thing. And when I got home and I wanted to transfer, if the transfer portal was as good as easy as now, I might not never been stuck at A&M. I had they call it RC Slocum always says he had that Highway 6 look. You know what I mean? Highway 6 was right through College Station. He's gonna go south. He's gonna go north. He's gonna be out of here. But that was the best thing. When I got home and I told Coach, I said, "Hey, I don't know if A&M is the right place for me." And he said, "Not many people know this story." And he goes, "Dad, you're not going to hear this, but the game of football, athletically, you're going to end one day. It's going to decline sometime. If it's 18, if it's 20, if it's 25, it's 30, whatever it is, we don't know. But when it declines, you got to accept that's going to be. So when they give you the education, that degree, you go back and you make school the priority one. And then football, if that happens, great." So at 17, 18 years old, man, you don't want to hear that. So I go back and, I rededicated myself, gave myself an opportunity. And school was one, and football was two. And I said, after 3 years, maybe I get a chance to start for Texas A&M. And right now I'm just going to contribute as a special team player, maybe get a chance to play and help. Because the guy that's in front of me, he was an All-American, out of high school. He was the best player in the state of Texas, that's highly recruited, number one recruited, I think, in the whole state of Texas as a player at that position and really overall. So I go and work out 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to class at 8, and then I came back at 12, and I came back at 4 with the team. So for 3 times a day, I worked out just for an opportunity. I said, everything is against me, right? I'm not supposed to be here. The scholarship, there's not many Asian American ever played at this level. And I go out there and I just keep working, and I work my way all the way up to be a backup to this guy that was an All-American. He's the number 1 recruit a year ago. And then leading up to that game, right before the game started against LSU in 95, on that Wednesday, Coach Slocum said, "Hey, get on the line. Let's run some sprints." He runs sprints, result running back and forth. All of a sudden, he steps on a sprinkler head. He can't play.
Oh, wow.
That was my window of opportunity.
Sprinkler head.
That's my career started, guys. Yeah.
Dad, I think it's very interesting. You were in the media. You and I did talk shows for several years, and then you got an opportunity to get in the business world. I think tell people what you're doing right now, because you've been a huge success.
Thank you very much, John. I am very fortunate. I wanted to coach football. I wanted to coach really college football. But all the stuff that went down at Texas A&M, I didn't really like the way it ended. I thought I was going to be there for the rest of my career, right, when I got there. But, God had other plans. And when I decided to make another path, change career, I looked at my mom, who grew up in the shrimping business, but then my mom opened a small restaurant business. And I saw the impact that she made on my relatives that worked for her and people that worked for her, how she interacted and how she touched them. So for me, I now work at a restaurant. I own a Chick-fil-A there in Fort Worth at Montgomery Plaza in Fort Worth, Texas. And my whole concept, all I know is football, right? So I have a lot of stats all over the place, meaning I have recruiting, meaning, hey, who's 5-star, who's 2-star, who's 3-star. I have my aces in the places. I recruit people, meaning I hire people whenever I can see, hey, who's my Dante Hall of the world or the West Wall of the world. So we do a lot of analogy in that way, meaning my kitchen, which is really the most of all restaurant business, a fast service or quick service business, that's your heartbeat of your team. The offensive line is your heartbeat of the team. You will win football games and lose football game, doesn't matter 20, 30 years down from the road or 60 years before, right? The game's not going to change. You got to win the line of scrimmage, and those are my line of scrimmage. And
so who's Shane Leckler?
Who's Shane Leckler? We changed the field position. Yeah, I got a guy named Jonathan Kendall. He's my Shane Leckler. He changed the field position for but what's funny, that's all I knew and saw done. But everything that we do concept wise is all sports related. To offensive lineman. When you look at our kitchen, hey, you got to think, hey, here's an offensive lineman. Here's a center. He's the one that does the machine because he can make adjustments on other things that happen. Hey, a breader is your main guy. He's a guard. He's gonna need some help. Might be your right tackle, really. Your left tackle, really the best. The ace of the ace is the one that has to make the sandwich, because the expectation, the standard for Chick-fil-A is hot, fresh, and got to get it out, right? So this person has to be very consistent and accurate. So we kind of build that kind of concept. So it's kind of cool for us. The defense is really the front counter that takes the orders and interact with the customers more. But so it's been fun for me. And it's but the most important thing, I think, or the biggest thing getting out of this whole deal, the experience, the purpose, is that I'm giving kids in the inner city of Fort Worth an opportunity.
Yeah.
I can tell you stories and stories. I got an A&M story. I got a kid. I don't have enough time. I can tell stories.
You got time. You got time.
I got a kid. I hired him at 16 years old. First from his family, worked on the job. He's young. Him and his little brother, Enrique is his name. He's at A&M now. So when he was a sophomore, I hired him, or freshman. I hired him, and then he got to his junior year, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to Texas A&M, where you went to school." I go, "You doing, Enrique?" I said, "Yeah." "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I think I'm gonna be a doctor, but I want biology first and go doctor." So he had all these things planned out. And I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll help you. I help you apply." So we applied. It was July. Oh, I'm sorry. It was July of his junior year. So we applied, and then I didn't get to see him a little bit. Then I saw him right after the first of the year. I go, "Hey, Enrique, how you been? What's up with A&M?" He goes, "Dad, you didn't hear?" I just go, "No, I got accepted." I was like, "Oh, wow, great, we celebrate." And he goes, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I go, "Yeah." "Can you look at this email?" I go, "Yeah, come on, I look at it." He said, "Email, congratulations, Enrique. You have awarded a scholarship for 15,000 or 14 some change." I was like, "Wow, you got your education paid for." He didn't even know the education was paid for. It's like, so it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. No, Dad, we could do this all day, but I'm gonna ask you one more, and then John, before we let you go, mine is on the documentary itself. I mean, what stands out? I'm sure you've seen it now, or at least seen some cuts of it, et cetera. What stands out to you as kind of like what really resonated with you? And I'm fascinated by the whole because I'm around them. I've made friends with a bunch of shrimpers and crabbers, over the years, because I'm always out on the water. How did they capture that, like the struggle of starting that business in Rockport, Fulton, and the documentary in general?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is just opportunities. That's all we want. Backs were against the wall. We were just having just anything to give us to put food on the table and clothes on our back. And I think that was a mindset that we all had when we came to Vietnam, from Vietnam to America. And I think you look at, there's so many success stories. I'm just one that had a chance to play the sport. And I think you go back and think about all the business people, the attorneys, the lawyers. There's so many great success stories. And I think it's just that all of us grew up, that came over, just want an opportunity. And I think for me, the best thing, I think overall, if you really watch the documentary, you get a chance to see it. I had a chance to witness, not the wins and the loss. That was great. And the people that impacted me was great. But I think I saw a little town of Rockport transform because of the game of football.
Mm-hmm.
Because this town, when you win, obviously, if we knew 20 years ago or 30 years ago, everything shuts down in a town to go watch football, Friday night lights, right? And that's how it is. And some of the small towns are still that way. And you have, all these that painted on the windows, sign and chant, whatever it is. But I saw the field or the stands that transformed. Didn't matter what color, race, where you are. We're all together. We were one team. And we were all cheering for the one team to go out there to win. And I think that is really the most, I guess, humbling experience. If you said that there was a high point in your life, and I think looking back, I wish I would enjoyed it a little bit more. But you were 18, 17, you didn't know. But now you sit back, you're like, wow. You know what I mean? It was pretty neat, because we had like breakfast, we had dinners, we had gathering, we had things that we did that we didn't know. We were just kids. We just wanted to play ball.
Yeah.
Dad, you had such an inspiring and fascinating backstory and a great career in college and the NFL. Tell us when the documentary comes out and where can people see it? I think I'm right that it's going to be on ESPN, SEC Network.
Yes, sir. So it comes out July 1st. We get to watch it July 1st as our family, and then July 4th, it's going to be out to the public. It'll be on ESPN, SEC Network. You can get it on Amazon and get your Roku TV. So there's a lot of places you can get it. But it's only less than an hour. It's 55 minutes long, and it's just a journey that I think it's going to be inspiring. I just hope that other kids will realize that, hey, just And we're going to have some adversity in the life, and that's the best thing about it is that when you hit adversity, what are you going to do about it? And there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's what I wanted to share. And most importantly, that we live in a world of opportunity, the country of opportunity. So when you get here, you have a chance and dream. When I start playing football, that's what I would be. I want to be, the next Walter Payton, right? High step and hold a loaf of bread, and then Mike Singletary, the eyes a linebacker, how focused he was. And I think that's what's so cool about it is that, there's never a big dream that you can't touch. And as long as you keep yourself clean, stay clean, do right in school and give yourself a chance, you're going to have a chance to fulfill the dream. So for me to get a chance to fulfill the dream, to share this story, I'm just thankful and grateful that A&M really came to me and asked me to be the first one to do this. And I think there's going to be other multiple ones that A&M we're going to do down the road. But for me to have a chance to share this is pretty awesome.
Hey, if you decide you want to do an NIL deal, let me know. And I got Baylor players to be happy to.
It ain't going to Baylor. I can tell you that. I can tell you that much right now. It ain't going to Baylor. And by the way, John, I apologize. This is where we usually do the podcast for my Bite Me podcast, my fishing podcast. So that logo on the top right, I didn't mean to throw anybody with that.
Hey, I like it. Your podcast is great. I got my Utopia football podcast with Sean Pendergast, and I appreciate you guys letting me come on with you, Dad. That's going to be great. Congratulations on your life and your career.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for everything. And I'm so glad that our path has crossed.
That's Dat Nguyen. I'm John Lopez. And for John McClain, this is Sports Radio 610 on the Odyssey app. Don't forget, All-American, Dat Nguyen, All-American. 4th of July. Couldn't be a better time to release it on all those networks that he mentioned. Thank you.
Gagum.
Game.